Recently, the Western Cape High Court directed Discovery Limited to deduct more than 29,000 rand from a client's existing retirement annuity fund. This after he defaulted on paying child maintenance for his 3 minor children since late last year. This case has yet again brought to the fore the challenges faced by many South African parents in the process of applying and lodging a maintenance claim. To talk more on this and what the law says in relation to paying child maintenance, we are joined by Seehaam Samaai. She's a director at the Women's Legal Centre. Thank you very, very much for joining us, Seehaam. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having us.
So the Western Cape High Court, as I've mentioned, ordering Discovery Limited to pay child maintenance from a client's Discovery retirement annuity fund and his Discovery retirement optimizer. Has this happened before? Is it a common order?
Well, pensions and also attaching pensions for future maintenance have been the Department of Justice has brought that in many, many years ago. And many people don't know that they can actually claim for that type of future maintenance from pensions, etc. And so it's important to note that you can't have your savings and not ensure that there's obligations to provide another person, for example, the child, with housing, food, clothing, education. And so even though it has been done before, it's not a remedy that many attorneys or the courts actually use. And we need to be able to know that when you have savings, whether or not you have pensions, etc., that can be attached also for future maintenance and for maintenance.
So, I mean, if we look at this specific case, so we'll look at it, and what happened was in October 2023, the man was ordered to pay 18,000 rand toward maintenance. The first payment was meant to happen in November 2023. It never happened. And so the wife went back to the court, filed contempt application against the husband for non-payment. And then it was said that he needed to pay 25,000 rand for rent, including arrears. These were never paid again. And this is where it then took that maintenance order was then gone into the Discovery accounts. I mean, is this a legal route? Are we able to see something like this taking place?
Yes, I mean, I do think that if there are assets, that they need to be able to attach it, whether or not it's pensions, retirement annuity, etc., whether or not it's a car, because at the end of the day, it is the child that suffers, and we need to be able to ensure that the duty to maintain is actually upheld. And so when we do have this particular order, we need to be innovative in terms of trying to get that a maintenance for the child. The challenge that we're sitting with is we have, for example, this a client.
We can still hear you.
Hello.
Please carry on.
Oh, sorry.
We've still
this
got
particular
you.
client. Yes, this particular client. It's more than a year, and at the end of the day, there's school fees, there is food, groceries, etc., that has to be paid. And I like the fact that the court has taken such a robust type of order and to ensure that the maintenance does get paid. And I hope that in future, lawyers that actually work within this particular sphere will work with, for example, the Department of Justice and different structures to be able to ensure that maintenance are paid.
This obviously speaks to a lot of other similar cases of women that are fighting for this kind of thing. I mean, we hear it all the time that, you know, the maintenance is never paid, and the spouse, whatever the case may be, disappears and never does this. So I imagine this speaks to a very big picture. But this particular wife was very lucky because there was something to tap into. But in a lot of cases, there aren't these kind of funds that can be tapped into.
Well, there are actually different processes. Even if the person doesn't work, there is a process where the court will ensure that you come, because it's not like you can sit whole at home, you need to be able to ensure that you look for work, that court will ask proof, etc. And so there is different mechanisms and ways to be able to get that maintenance. The maintenance courts even have maintenance investigators that can check up what your assets are, what is in your bank account, etc., to ensure that there is discovery. For example, in this particular matter. And so when your maintenance investigators do their work, you can place all of that financials before the particular court, and orders will then be made. And so we do have an extremely progressive maintenance act. However, we need to ensure that there's proper implementation. We have maintenance officers, we have maintenance investigators, and also the courts are also ensuring now that you have garnishee orders, and also that your salary, for example, in terms of third-party payments, etc., gets attached. And so all of these mechanisms need to be able to be used to ensure that the maintenance is paid, efficiently and speedily.
Now, this is obviously, we're talking about the parents, this particular case, the parents of the three minor children are currently involved in a divorce. So they are married. But would the court have acted differently if they were not married? Because this is a big scenario. Would it work the same or not?
Yes, I mean, maintenance, maintenance is it's the duty to maintain. Marriage or and whether or not it is a partnership, etc., it is the child who is in the center. And so we need to be able to ensure that that duty to maintain is based on blood relationship and not just in terms of marriage, etc. And so there remains a duty that the child needs to be maintained by his or her parents, whether married, living together, separated, divorced. And that also includes parents who have adopted the child.
And that's a very important point, because I want to get back to what you said, that this is blood that we're talking about. And there was, in fact, quite an interesting response to our question of the day, where somebody said that, there should be a mandatory DNA test before I pay, because, there are circumstances where the child is not mine and I'm being forced to pay maintenance. What happens in a case like that?
Well, I think this is also important. The Department of Justice actually pays for paternity tests. And many people don't know this, that if there is a dispute, because many years ago, this was one of the ways where fathers would bring this dispute, and then it would take years because they can't pay for the tests. But now the department actually pays for it. And so those that are indigent can go to the court manager or the clerks. If this dispute is done, they will pay for it. And it's no longer an issue. It's just that people don't know that that is available if they are disputing the paternity of a child.
Now, this is important because I don't think people actually know their rights. And I'm gathering this more and more and more as people navigate through the legal system. Is that a fair statement to make? On either side, I'm saying for the father's side and the mother's side, people actually don't know that they have many, many rights available to them that they perhaps don't use.
Yes, that is some of the challenges, because like I said, the Maintenance Act is fairly progressive. It has all the remedies to be able to ensure that maintenance are paid. The problem that we're sitting with is around implementation and whether or not people know what their rights are. Do women know that they can go to the Department of Justice and so that they can pay for a paternity test? They don't know. They don't know that they can actually go to their maintenance investigator and give the ID or details of the person and ensure that all finances are placed before the court, because they are linked to ITC. And I do think that the department must make this more available to be able to ensure that people actually use it, because you can wait for years before garnishee order is even implemented. And these options need to be given from the beginning.
Indeed. And that's, I mean, kids can't wait years. People can't wait years because this, unfortunately, is where things go horribly wrong. But if in fact, I mean, paternity test, there's a guy who's written to us here, Ndalani, saying, I don't accept this ruling fully. The majority of the fathers are not even real fathers. For fathers born out of wedlock, labs cost around 3,000 Rand for paternity. And you have addressed that. I mean, paternity is a right, but the costs with paternity tests?
The department pays for the costs.
So there you go. I just wanted you to reiterate that the department will actually do this for you. So a 3,000 Rand bill associated with it is not something that you need to pay. The department will do this for you.
Yes. And so all you have to do is to be able to speak to the maintenance investigator or the clerk, and because there's budget for this, because we knew years ago that this was going to be a challenge, and that is why the department allows us for indigent persons who can't afford to pay for the paternity tests.
I want to ask you this question. What are some of the other ways? Obviously, this is a particular case where the father, even though he said he was working for a company that's about to go through a retrenchment process and he is going to lose his job, so he was asking for a lower maintenance. But he did have this savings that could be tapped into to try and assist and help for the months he didn't pay. Now, what are some other ways that the court could enforce parties to pay child maintenance? As I mentioned right at the beginning, very few people have these kind of savings available.
Yes. Well, there's different ways. I mean, for example, you do have the garnishee orders. Obviously, this person is going to be retrenched, but also you can claim for future maintenance, in particularly, when people is going to be retrenched or they are going to retire, to be able to ensure that funds are not squandered. So people need to know that they can claim on pensions for future maintenance. They can do that. You can also attach, and sometimes you have assets, like for example a car or etc. And we need to be able to ensure that the order that you'll be able to either sell the particular car, etc., to be able to get that maintenance that is due to that particular child. In addition to that, the court also ensures that when you do come before the court and the court says that you say you don't have work, etc., etc., the issue is that when you come back, you need to come and show the court that you actually looked for work.
There's so many sad stories that are coming through, and I see our time is out. This is one from Tumi saying, I got an order for my baby daddy to pay 2,000 Rand 5 years ago, still not a cent. Instead, I go to Boksburg Court. They tell me I must go find out where he's working. After COVID, he changed jobs. I don't know where he is, don't know where he's working. It's a disaster. The legal system is failing me.
Legal Aid South Africa provides legal services for persons after 1 year that the maintenance order has not yet been implemented, that they must go to Legal Aid South Africa and ensure and get legal representation.
Well, there you go. All right.
They're able to ensure that order is
enforced. Indeed.
Yes.
So go the route of legal aid. That's just a bit of advice. Thank you. Seehaam, thank you. We could spend the hour speaking about this because it's a very big topic. Seehaam Samaai is a director at the Women's Legal Centre, talking to us about this recent Western Cape High Court ordering Discovery Limited to pay out more than 29,000 Rand to a trust after the client defaulted on child maintenance payments.